Then, as of this moment, double secret probation.
Voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barbershop we create magic. Brad and John show, yeah. It's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John show, the finest in the land.
Ah, yes. It's the Brad and John show for Friday. You know, it's sort of a contradiction because I really like to hit things hard on Friday. It's a great day, my favorite day of the week, and move forward and hit it hard. But we always start with that mellow barbershop because John wants to relive those days of what I used to know as Ronnie's Barbershop. What was it called? Spanish Lake Barbershop, John?
It was Spanish Lake Barbershop. And we had the old barber pole out front.
You know, it's funny. I just saw, you think things disappear. I just saw in an area I drive almost every day a new barbershop start up. You know, you don't see that too often anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you certainly don't see a lot of white barbershops. What part of town was it in, Brad?
It was, I'm not going to say. Because
okay, so there was a black barbershop.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I mean, you see plenty of black barbershops.
But the white folk don't get their haircut at barbershops ananymore? Is that what you're telling me, John?
I think that white men will prefer to go to a Sport Clips or go to a Great Clips, get a low budget haircut, and the barbershop doesn't have that. And, barbers would tell you, Brad, that I would love to see the numbers from the State Department of Cosmetology or whatever that would show the number of barber applicants, because to be a barber you have to be trained on a straight razor. There's a lot of things that you have to do,
which most guys will never use, but isn't that the way most tests are? You get tested on things that you'll never use,
exactly
right? It's like going to college. You get tested on things that once you leave that great place of learning, you'll never use any of the stuff you got. It's like school in general. You learn all this stuff, you never use it. Okay, that is John Combest, Combest. I spell his name because you need to put that into your computer, your browser, your whatever you're using, your smartphone, and type out JOHNCOMBEST.com, johncombest.com. He does this for 22 plus years. Every single day, he puts together a list of all sorts of things, sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50. You ever hit 60 items? You think you ever hit 60?
No idea. I maybe. Probably after an election I probably have, Brad.
But we start the show off with three things, the top three. Now, couple things before we get going. First off, I'm going to bet I have a story, which I think is going to be really interesting that you don't know about, but we'll see as we go through the top three. Because if you have it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the top three. Okay, but having said that, remember the old days of Jerry Berger?
Oh, yeah. I feel like we've given him love on this show, but we haven't gone probably into too much detail. You know what he would say? Let's go burgering.
Well, Jerry Berger was an interesting guy. Matter of fact, he worked with my sister. My sister was in the newspaper business for a long time, and he has an interesting background. He was like an agent or something like that in Hollywood, and then he moved here to the St. Louis area, and he got a job with the Globe-Democrat. And then he ended up, when the Globe-Democrat went under, he went to the Post-Dispatch, and he wrote, what would you say? He was like a society column or like a gossip column kind of thing?
Yeah, like a gossip column. And it would overlap with politics when it would have to do with scene on the town, mayor, Cervantes was out with his gal pals.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Now, what's interesting about this is I think I mentioned this too once or twice. Shelley Barr, my former co-host from BS.show, her stepfather owned and operated the Coal Hole in Clayton. Are you too young to remember the Coal Hole?
I am too young, yeah. And that's a place where minors would go for same-sex interactions, right?
No. The Coal Hole was this. It was a restaurant in Clayton. If I'm not mistaken, it was on the corner of Bottom and Brentwood, and it was like the place to be seen. If you were like a mover, a shaker, politics, business, stuff like that, you lunched at the Coal Hole. And as Shelley would tell me, one of the favorite places that Jerry Berger would sit and write columns was at the Coal Hole, where he would do what he'd call situms. You remember how he used to call them situms?
Oh, yeah, situms. I do remember that.
And situms was something like he saw Joe Smith and Gwendolyn Jones, confabbing. That was another one of his terms. Didn't you use confab all the time?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I have a situm.
Really? I want to hear it.
A situm that happened yesterday, and it's two people we talk about quite often in this show who were having lunch together at the Brass Rail in O'Fallon. And
no way.
Yes.
Brad. That's a great establishment.
The two people, you ever been there before? It's actually real good.
Yeah, I have been there, yeah.
Okay, the two people having lunch at the Brass Rail in O'Fallon were Bill Eigel and Tracy Ellis.
Nice. Well, good for them, Brad.
And what was the conversation du jour? Tracy is trying to get Bill Eigel to come back and, after he's officially done as a state senator, be a permanent host on Real Talk 93.3.
He would be fantastic. Well, I think he should do it.
He was there before. I don't know if you knew that or not. He did.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
he did an afternoon
but he
show.
wasn't there. He didn't do the show for very long, I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's the radio business. You one day they cajole you, the next minute they fire you. Anyway, so that's my situm. Now, did I personally see this? No, but the interesting thing was, I got not one, but two calls from two different people going, you're not going to believe what was going on at the Brass Rail. It was Tracy Ellis trying to get Bill Eigel to come back on 93.3. So that's my side.
That's awesome. Now, I don't know if that's Jerry Berger worthy. That might be Deb Peterson. Remember, she took over.
Yeah, but she didn't have, and Joe Holloman tries to do it from time to time. He does like his little, but
it's gotten. Joe writes pretty. I would describe his as a political gossip column. Although in the last year, I think he's done more news stuff. But to his credit,
right?
Yeah, and Jerry Berger, it was a shame how his career kind of came to an end, but I think most people will remember him for the good times instead of kind of the stuff toward the tail end of his life.
And he passed away, about 2 or 3 years ago, or has it been longer?
Yeah, I think it's been longer.
Yeah. Anyway, I met him a couple times. He's always very nice to me because he remembered my sister, and and he said nice things about my sister, which were not all true. They were all false. Okay, it's time.
Can't we all say that? Was she a big sister or a little sister?
Older sister. Yeah, older sister.
Okay, yeah. I know the feeling, Brad.
Okay, we start off the show with John's top three. We bring in this guy who is right now in Norway, but he may be back in Los Angeles.
Now on with the countdown.
And his name is?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what does he do?
We're on our way to the number one.
And how's he do it?
And here they are.
And we start with?
In third place.
Speaking of Jerry Berger, Brad, we have a situm. And you know what? If this was a subhead in Jerry Berger's column, we'd call it, Let's Go Black Bearing. Brad, public safety alert for you. Black bears have been spotted in Affton. Missouri State Department of Conservation has a simple message, Brad. Don't feed the bears. And you know what? Don't even put your trash out early. Put your trash out the day of. Don't try to front run the garbage man, Brad, or whatever they call themselves these days. Don't leave your trash out. Don't feed the bears. Don't approach the bears. Mama bear and 3 cubs are traipsing around Affton, Brad. Now, the irony of this is most people move to Affton to get away from black bears and to avoid this type of thing. But there have been several black bear sightings, and conservation says stay away. So if you know somebody, you love somebody in Affton, don't encourage them to go out and take pictures. Hey, Edna, I got a good pic. You see it on Facebook? Put it on. It's on Facebook. You see it on Facebook? Don't try to be a social media hero. Don't go with your other fellow old people and post on Nextdoor. Just stay away. Let the bears go back to their natural habitat, Brad.
You know, what's interesting about this is people are freaking out about black bears coming in the state of Missouri. But if you've ever looked at the Missouri state flag, guess what's on it?
You're exactly right, Brad. They are all over. They have a huge population in Missouri.
Well, they were, if I'm not mistaken, they were everywhere back in the day, and then they were sort of hunted into extinction or very close to extinction, and now they're back on the rise. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and we get updates. I think every year the Department of Conservation does updates on what the population's like. I think they monitor that pretty closely.
Yeah, and you don't want to mess with Mama Bear and her cubs. That's all I can say. That's just one of those things. Hunter Education 101, right?
That's if you were to go to a beautiful area, let's say in West County today, because the weather's cooler, you will see a Wildwood or a Town and Country or a Chesterfield MILF in the carpool lane with a shirt that says Mama Bear. Those are like their favorite cold weather, chilly weather clothes, Brad. Mama Bear sweatshirts.
That's John Combest. Okay, number 2. Here we go.
Up a notch to number 2.
Something kind of inspirational, Brad. Speaking of women, something a little bit inspirational. Now, I'll give you the bad news first. 2 former presidents of the Boilermakers Union have been indicted for embezzlement. Here's why it's important. The Boilermakers International Union is based in Kansas City, Missouri. For a while, it was based in Kansas City, Kansas, and now it's based in Kansas City, Missouri. We talked about this once, but I think it was many, many months ago, Brad. In short, a bunch of union officials are facing RICO charges. That's Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations. That's what RICO is, Act. Anyway, they, according to court documents, have been embezzling a ton of money. They demanded that themselves, their family, their friends got no-show jobs, so got 6-figure salaries for essentially doing nothing, would book themselves exotic trips, hotels, the whole cliche of what you would picture as union corruption. And the feds have busted them, Brad. Now, here's the inspirational piece. The gentleman who's been at the center of this, kind of the head of the Boilermakers International Union, is a guy who's 71 years old now. His name is Newton Jones. And one of the people who's the defendant in the case is a woman named Katarina Jones. She's 32 now. But the story from the Kansas City Star, and I should point out that this is by Judy Thomas of the Kansas City Star, essentially this union boss ended up getting a mail-order bride from the Ukraine and gave her a lot of money. She had one of the no-show jobs, as I understand it. And apparently, like when he brought her over, she was in her 20s. So that would have put him like, well, I'd say late 60s. Let's just call it 69. So can you imagine, Brad, being 69 and having a woman, 40 years your junior? All you got to do is embezzle a couple $1 million of union money.
John, how do you know I don't have that?
I don't know that. And I think it's that's the type of stuff that we don't even have to talk about on air, Brad. Who's to say that you don't?
So is he officially been charged now? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so there's 7 folks, and some of them are based in North Carolina. And the youngest is the mail-order bride. She's 32. And then he actually, it turns out that he had a son, I'm guessing from a previous marriage, who's older than the mail-order bride. He is older than the Ukrainian chick. So that's pretty cool. If you had I guess if you're going to get remarried, you'd want to do it to a chick that's younger than your kids. Anyway, and then them and their kids and your kids could have a lot in common. They could chat about, You know what, Brad? I'll never forget what you told me.
What's that?
Said, when you die, you hope your next wife is so sad that she has to drop out of college. And I'll never forget that, Brad. That was inspirational. You mentioned that that was episode number 42069 of our show.
I don't remember ever saying that, John.
You absolutely said that, Brad. Or maybe it's my imagination on a Friday. Check it out.
I think it might be your imagination. I think that's what it is. Okay, last but not least.
The number 1.
Just when you thought the governor's race was over, Brad Hildebrand goes burgering and repeating news about Bill Eigel and Tracy Ellis. And congratulations to Bill Eigel. Let's just announce that he has a brand new show on 93.3. And if it lasts more than 3 months, it's longer than every other show that's ever been on that station. Sorry, that was me being like Brad Hildebrand there. What? Here's the thing, though. Governor's race is not over, Brad, at least according to Governor Mike Parson, because Governor Mike Parson issued a strongly worded letter to Jay Ashcroft. Did you see any of these headlines yesterday, Brad?
I did not.
Okay, so I'll give you a quick summary of this. I know we're getting close to the end of the segment. So Jason Rosenbaum has a really good summary of the logistics of this. Excuse me. But here's the gist of it. A few weeks ago, Governor Parson came out, as we've discussed on the show, and ordered the end of the sale of hemp-based products that have intoxicating properties. And we know that the hemp industry was very upset about that order. And the marijuana industry was very happy about that order. Now, the thing about these emergency rules is that the Secretary of State has to essentially approve them or implement them, I guess you could say, before they become officially rules. But Jay Ashcroft has said that these rules do not meet the standard of being an emergency. And Jay Ashcroft says, look, if you were going to put these rules in place, they have to go through public comment period. People have to vet these. There has to be some check on the governor's power. You don't just make everything an emergency order because the governor wants it to be. So the governor yesterday issued a letter to Ashcroft that said the governor's extremely disappointed. And here's the money line, Brad. He says, as best I can tell, you denied this emergency rulemaking because you believe hurt feelings are more important than protecting children. And blah, blah, blah. And he says, and denying the rulemaking is your attempt at retribution for my endorsement of another candidate. So in short, the governor is saying that Jay Ashcroft is butthurt about the governor endorsing Mike Kehoe. Jay Ashcroft, for his part, Brad, says, no, first of all, I endorse Lieutenant Governor Kehoe immediately after the primary. And secondarily, you can't just make everything an emergency order because you want it to be. So, as I understand it, in Rosenbaum's piece, the governor's office then resubmitted a new set of regulations or a new set of orders, and and Ashcroft's office is reviewing those now. So, Brad, this is a pretty public spat. Kind of disappointing to see it, but I mean, I guess it happens, you know. It's certainly a difference of opinion, but the governor would say that this has to do with Jay being butthurt.
You know, I don't quite understand this whole thing with the hemp deal. To me, it's like, okay, now you go back in history and hemp was a very important product, most importantly used for, do you know what?
It was used for rope production?
Yes, exactly. I mean, back in the day, you know, I mean, so many people, relied on hemp rope, which was very strong, and I think was like
the tensile strength. It has strong tensile strength.
Right, and it was sort of like the Cadillac of ropes. Now people go, well, who cares about ropes? Well, back in the day, ropes were very important for a lot of different things. For on the farm, in industry. I mean, you know, now you have all these high tech, carbon fiber kind of things that are being used. But back in the day, it was hemp. And when did it become illegal? I mean, what was it? Was there somebody came along one day and go, well, hey, I saw my buddy out there smoking a rope. We need to make that illegal. I mean, how did it get to be illegal?
I don't know. I'm guessing it had something to do with the whole reefer madness thing. And once I'm guessing, I wouldn't know about that. I've asked Eben Thampy to come on, Brad. We've texted with him and we haven't heard a confirmation of when he'd be willing to come on and talk about Delta 8 and hemp. But and I know there have been a number of efforts in the state of Missouri. Even the Department of Agriculture has done things to help encourage the production of hemp once again, because now hemp is legal federally.
Right. By the way, you mentioned John throws things out from time to time. Reefer madness. Have you ever seen that before?
I've only seen clips of it.
I'm old enough to tell you that it was shown in my health class in junior high.
No way.
Yeah.
That is so great. Now, did it kept you away from the wacky tobacco, though, Pat?
Oh, well, no, the point it was, even back then when what it was like, I was preteen, or I guess I was my early teens back in junior high. Even then it was like, okay, this is a little bit over the top.
Kind of hokey, yeah.
Kind of hokey. Like, okay. What's interesting is John did not mention the story I have.
Oh, I missed it. I must have missed it, Brad. Hey, I'm human. I'm only human.
And I got a feeling that I'm going to scoop you
Tonight's
on something.
going to be a good night. Go ahead.
And we may make a call out to someone to essentially.
Oh, I bet. Now, did this person once live in a gated community and had poor trigger control? Because you can whip your hemp on me. You can whip your hemp on me, baby.
John's in rare form this morning. Okay, we'll talk about it next.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?